Hi, this is Rimshan Rahman. I have been learning on camera settings how to take good pictures by knowing the exact functions of the cameras like manual focus, exposure value, aperture, shutter speed, ISO, and white balance. So I took this photo of a plant and to see how the image appears. So I'll just share the details, what were the technicals of the camera were. So this was the first image, and these were the details where the ISO was 100. I've kept the shutter speed at 40, 1/40 seconds, and white balance at 5000K, whereas the autofocus the autofocus is kept at 1. Exposure value is kept at minus 1.00, whereas the I have zoomed in at 1.6 values. So that is the number at which it is zoomed in. Now, to understand what is ISO, what is the shutter speed, what is the white balance, and what is the autofocus and exposure value, we have to understand how do they work actually. So for that, for my understanding purpose, I took out some content, worked with the AI chatbot, and here I've taken discussed something with the chatbot. So I prompted chatbot, tell me what is aperture, and if the aperture is kept at focal point 2.2, then what does it mean? So it simply told me, and I have listed down the answer for my learning purpose. So to be clear, this video that I'm making is for my learning purpose, so that when I want to retrieve it later and see it instantaneously, so I get access to it and be able to capture good photos with some knowledge on camera technicals. So what I did, I asked what is the aperture, and at focal point 2.2 what does it mean, how the picture image appears. So aperture is simply the part of camera, the opening of the camera that lets certain amount of light into the camera. So that is called aperture, and for that is 2.2 means it is wide open and it can take a lot of light and produce a strong background blur. So at 2.2 it means it's going to make the background a bit blur and it's going to take a white frame. So, and it's usually good for smartphones. So that was it. Then the next is focal length. I asked what is focal length, and if it is 3.37 millimeters, so what does that mean? So that also means it's good for the it represents that it is a wide angle capturing a broad scene with less zoom and more depth means it's going to take a huge big frame for the picture. If you want to take a focus frame, so 3.37 is not going to work until you zoom in. So this feature with focal length the 3.37 millimeter, you can have wide angle, but if you want to zoom in, you can use the zoom in feature. But in case otherwise, it's going to take a broad scene, it's going to be less zoom, and it's going to add more depth in a sense that it's going to take fill it with whole lot of details of the image. So focal length in the green, that is what I have written, while the rest is the ChatGPT's response from prompt. So focal length determines how wide the angle is. Focal length of 3.37 millimeter captures broad scene, just discussed. To focus, one can use zoom in features, otherwise a wide angle adds depth. So the next is ISO. ISO measures the camera sensor's sensitivity to light. That means if it's a broad daylight and you have to adjust your ISO, you can keep it at minimum because the light is sufficient, and because the daylight is sufficient, so you can keep it at minimum and you can capture very good photos, because ISO makes image brighter. If it's broad daylight, and if you're going to keep ISO high, it's going to make the image more bright, and it's going to make image more noisy, and it's not going to come out very smooth. So what does ISO do in broad daylight? When you reduce it, it makes this picture clear, smooth, and it appears very good in bright light. So high ISO increases the light, best used in less light on night time. So when it's night time, you can increase the ISO. So it's going to make the overall image a bit bright, and it makes image brighter, adds noise, and less makes image less clean. Because you are going to increase the overall brightness, it's going to make the image less clean. When you reduce the brightness, it makes the image more clean, whether it's nighttime or daytime. So you have to decide that particular point where you have to keep where the image appears clean, smooth, and nice. And opposite goes for the low ISO that we have just discussed. Then we have shutter speed. So what is manual focus, manual and autofocus? Manual focus refers to the focus modes in a camera. Manual focus is going to adjust, you have to adjust the camera for the focus yourself, and in autofocus, camera automatically adjusts it. So the difference is, when there are two things. In manual focus, you have to find the best distance from the object or subject that you're capturing in the photo through manual focus points, whether you're going to choose 0.92 or 0.50 or whatever you choose. You're going to choose it with the point that you're going to select, and then you're going to find the precise point where you're going to find the image appears clear and it's become focused. So what it does, it makes the image clear, and it also makes the image blur. Now there are two things it does. Okay, now that is independent from your phone or from your camera. For the manual focus, you have to adjust your phone or camera to a certain angle, and then you're going to, through manual focus, you're going to find that particular number, and to find whether you want the clear image or the blur image. If you're going to put it at 0.00, the lowest of the value, it's going to make the whole image blur. And in that blur image, if you're going to keep a certain object near to your camera lens, it's going to make that lens image of that particular object very clear, but the background is going to get blur. But in case if you are going to increase the number to 1.00 for the manual and autofocus, in manual focus, it's going to make the background very clear, but the object that you will be holding with your hand just behind the camera, it's going to make it blur. So that is the opposite result that manual focus achieves, depending on how you want it, whether you want the background blur or you want the background clear, you want the nearer image blur or you want the nearer image clear. So that's how you're going to decide it. Now this was the picture that I first shared with you when I started this. So it has ISO kept at 100. It has shutter speed at 1/40s, and it has white balance 5000K, which is normal day neutral light. Autofocus is at 1, that means image is slightly clear, and the exposure value, overall brightness, I have kept it -1.00, and I have zoomed in at 1.6x times. I have zoomed in here. So if I, with all these details intact, if I just change the shutter speed from 140 seconds to 1/4s, keeping the ISO 100, it's going to make the image brighter. Can you see it in the image that I'm sharing right now? So that's the difference shutter speed achieves. Now in this image, all values are same, but shutter speed I have kept at 1/6 seconds, and it reduces the light a bit as compared to this one. It is 1/4 seconds. So here the light is too bright, it's too noisy. So when you decrease the shutter speed, even from 1/4 to 1/6, it's going to make the image look a bit nice. Same goes for this image. So here the shutter speed is reduced to 1/8 seconds, and it's giving the image a bit brighter look. So this one, here the shutter speed has increased to 1/50 seconds, and it's giving the image a very clean look. It's not making it appear very bright, so that's quite suitable for the daylight. Here the shutter speed is kept same at 150 here, but here the white balance has been increased, so it brought some yellowish color to it, and it's adding some nice warm tones to it. Here everything is kept same, but just the angle of the phone of the camera is changed. It has gotten from straight to bit slant. Here everything is kept same, even the angle and the old things, but here the shutter speed is increased in terms of numbers, but actually decreased to 180 seconds. So it's giving, that means it's letting less light into the camera, which is giving the picture a more clearer and clean look, even in the normal evening daylight, and that looks really nice as compared to this one and these images. See, this one appears at quite nice. Okay, now these are the details of values from previous image. So in this image the details can be found here. There will be certain changes, small minor changes, but not much. So everything is same here. In this image the ISO is kept at 100, shutter speed at 125, and white balance reduced, giving it look like it's if the image is captured in the early morning hours, but that is not the case. We just have given it such a look. Here its ISO is 100, shutter speed at 130, but here we have added a white balance or something, almost same, but here the manual focus is changed. It's made a bit sharp. Can you see the leaves in over here? They look a bit sharp, and here it looks a bit blurred. Everything is same, but the leaves look a bit blurred, so it's just taking away that sharpness from the image, so it does not fall that much, striking to the eyes. In some photos it's good, but if you want to change it, give it a bit blur to give that image a bit smooth, so it works. So with all details intact, I reduce exposure value. Now here is the exposure value. In all the previous images the exposure value was kept at -1. So in this one I've decreased the exposure value to -1. So what it does, it reduced the brightness and adjusted the blur created from the manual focus. Now this exposure value decrease is going to adjust for the brightness, that blur that we have created with the manual focus, to give image that smooth look, not very sharp and not very, you can say not very sharp or not very what else you can say, not very sharp look. Okay, we'll settle on that. So here I've taken the same picture but with a wider frame. Here the ISO was kept at 125, shutter speed at 133 per second. So that looks nice when you hold it a bit back and take the whole scene. So here are a few edited images that I have edited later on. Here I've edited the color, the brightness through the manual editing. It brings out the colors of the leaves in comparison to the whole picture, and they look really nice. So that was all. Thank you.